Minho woke up slowly. His body felt heavy and strange, like it belonged to someone else. The first thing he saw was a white ceiling with soft lights. The second thing he saw was Dr. Choi Nari's face looking down at him with concern. "Welcome back, Dr. Kang," she said with a gentle smile. "You've been unconscious for 3 days. 3 days?" Minho tried to sit up, but his body protested. Everything hurt. His muscles ached. His lungs burned with each breath. His skin felt tender and raw. "Easy," Choi Nari said, helping him settle back against the pillows. "You suffered severe atmospheric exposure, heat exhaustion, and oxygen deprivation. Your body needs time to heal." Memories came flooding back. The lounge, the aliens, Ambassador Krill lying still on the floating platform, the neural stabilizer glowing as it worked, the desperate journey back to the elevator. "Ambassador Krill?" Minho asked, his voice rough and weak. "Fully recovered," Choi Nari assured him. "The neural stabilizer worked perfectly."
He woke up 6 hours after you brought it to him.
"He's been asking about you every day." Minho felt relief wash over him. He had succeeded. The ambassador was alive. Over the next few days, Minho recovered slowly. Park Yuna visited him regularly, bringing reports and updates. Dr. Han came by with books and data pads to keep him entertained. Oh Junho visited once, looking both proud and guilty that his suit modifications had barely held together. On the 5th day, Minho was finally able to walk around his room without assistance. Choi Nari said he would need another week of recovery before returning to work. But that afternoon, Park Yuna arrived with news that changed everything. "The High Council is coming," she said, her voice tight with tension. "The High Council?" Minho repeated. "The governing body of the Galactic Cooperative. They lead the alliance of alien civilizations. They've never visited Earth before. Their ships are entering the solar system now. They'll be here in 12 hours. Why are they coming?" Park Yuna sat down in the chair beside his bed. "Because of you. Because of what you did. Apparently your actions in the lounge have caused quite a stir in galactic circles." Minho didn't know what to say. He had just been trying to save someone's life. He hadn't thought about the larger implications. The next 12 hours were chaos. The entire facility went into preparation mode. Diplomats from various Earth governments arrived. Military personnel established additional security. Scientists prepared presentations about human achievements. Everyone was nervous and excited and terrified all at once. Minho was moved to a room with better accommodations. Choi Nari insisted he stay in medical care, but she made sure he had a window view and access to communication systems. He could watch and listen to what was happening. The High Council's ship arrived exactly on schedule. It appeared in the sky above Area 51 like a star that grew brighter and larger. The ship was enormous, bigger than any human aircraft carrier. Its design was elegant and alien, with curves and structures that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. Smaller craft descended from the main ship and landed at Area 51. Through his window, Minho could see them. Vehicles unlike anything human engineers had created, made of materials that seemed to shift and change in the light. Then the High Council emerged. There were 7 of them, each from a different species. One was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished stone. Another was short and round, covered in what might have been scales or armor. A third floated above the ground with no visible means of support. They all wore symbols of authority that Minho didn't recognize but somehow understood meant great importance. Leading them was High Counselor Ven. This being was humanoid in shape but clearly not human. Its skin was a deep blue color, and its eyes were golden and seemed to see everything at once. It moved with grace and power. Park Yuna met them at the landing site along with Earth's president Song Ji-won, who had been secretly briefed about alien contact years ago. Minho watched through a video feed as the formal greetings took place. Human and alien diplomats exchanged words that had probably been prepared and rehearsed for weeks. But then High Counselor Ven did something unexpected. It asked to speak with Kang Minho. Choi Nari helped Minho into a wheelchair. He protested that he could walk, but she insisted. They took him down to one of the large conference rooms where the High Council had gathered. Human officials and alien ambassadors filled the room. Everyone looked at Minho as he was wheeled in. Ambassador Krill was there, standing tall and healthy. When the ambassador saw Minho, it made sounds that the translation device rendered as "my friend." "My savior," High Counselor Ven stepped forward. Its golden eyes studied Minho with an intensity that was both frightening and fascinating. "Dr. Kang Minho," Ven said, its voice deep and resonant even through the translator. "You entered an environment that should have killed you. You used improvised technology that could have failed at any moment. You risked your life for a being you had never met, from a species you barely understood. Why?" The room was completely silent. Everyone waited for Minho's answer. Minho thought about his response. He could say something diplomatic, something that would sound good in the history books, but that wasn't the truth. "Because he needed help," Minho said simply. "And because I could try." Ven's expression changed in a way that might have been surprise or respect. "That is the answer we expected from a human. That is why we are here." The High Counselor turned to address the entire room. "The Galactic Cooperative has observed humanity for 5 years. We have studied your history, your culture, your nature. We placed you in this facility with our ambassadors as a test. Not a test of your technology or your intelligence, but a test of your character." Park Yuna's face went pale. "The lounge was a test?" "Partially," Van admitted. "We knew that human curiosity would eventually lead someone to try to enter. We had safeguards in place, but we wanted to see how you would react to the challenge of helping someone in an environment hostile to your biology. Several of our member species believed humanity would fail. Another council member spoke up, this one with a voice like wind through metal. "They said humans were too fragile, too limited by your biology. They said when faced with true danger, you would choose safety over compassion." Ven nodded, but Dr. Kang proved them wrong. When Ambassador Krill's life was in danger, humanity did not hesitate. You improvised. You adapted. You took a risk that most species would consider insane, and you succeeded. The High Counselor moved closer to Minho. "This is not the first time humans have shown such qualities. In your brief time knowing us, you have repeatedly demonstrated courage, creativity, and compassion that exceed what we typically see in young species. You rush in where others fear to tread. You solve problems in ways we never consider. You care about others, even those completely different from yourselves." President Song Ji-won stepped forward. "High Counselor, what does this mean for Earth?" Ven turned to face her. "It means the Galactic Cooperative is ready to offer humanity full membership. Not provisional membership, not restricted access, but full participation in galactic society. You will have access to our technology, our knowledge, our resources. In return, we ask for what you already give freely: your courage, your innovation, and your humanity." The room erupted in excited conversation. Humans and aliens alike seemed surprised and pleased by the announcement. Minho felt overwhelmed. He had just been trying to save one life. He never imagined it would lead to this. Ambassador Krill approached Minho's wheelchair. The Kelthir diplomat placed one of its limbs gently on Minho's shoulder. "My species has a saying," Krill said through its translator. "The measure of a civilization is not in its strength, but in its willingness to be weak for others. You were weak in the lounge, human. Your body was failing. You were vulnerable. But you came anyway. That is true strength." Over the following days, preparations began for humanity's formal acceptance into the Galactic Cooperative. It would take months or even years to fully integrate Earth into galactic society. There would be challenges and difficulties ahead, but the first major step had been taken. Minho recovered fully after 2 more weeks. On his first day back to work, he found that his life had changed completely. He was no longer just a xenobiologist. He had been appointed as Earth's first official ambassador to the Galactic Cooperative, working directly with Vex and the other alien representatives. His first official duty came as a surprise. High Counselor Ven presented him with a gift, a properly designed environmental suit created specifically for humans to use in the lounge. It was sleek and elegant, incorporating both human and alien technology in ways that Oh Junho had only dreamed of. "You should not have to risk your life every time you visit your friends," Ven explained with what might have been humor. That evening, Minho put on the new suit and returned to Sublevel 7. The elevator doors opened and he stepped into the lounge once more. But this time he wasn't rushing through in a failing suit. This time he could stop and look around. He could appreciate the beauty and strangeness of this alien space. Ambassadors from various species came to greet him. The tall one with 4 arms who had guided him before. The small 6-legged being who had helped him to the elevator. The floating spheres of light. The shadow with too many limbs. Each one welcomed him in their own way, The desert sun was already burning hot when Kang Minho stepped out of the black SUV. He squinted at the flat, empty land around him. There was nothing here except sand, rocks, and a small guard post that looked like it belonged to any regular military base. But Minho knew better. This was Area 51, and today was his first day. A woman in a crisp business suit walked toward him. She wore dark sunglasses that hid her eyes. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and she moved with the confidence of someone who had done this many times before. "Dr. Kang Minho?" she asked, extending her hand. "Yes, that's me," Minho replied, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm and professional. "I'm Park Yuna, deputy director of this facility. Welcome to your new workplace." She gestured toward the guard post. "Follow me. We have a lot of paperwork to get through before I can show you anything interesting." Minho followed her through the guard post and down a long hallway that seemed to go on forever. The walls were plain white and the floor was polished concrete. Everything looked clean and sterile like a hospital. They passed through 3 security checkpoints, each one requiring different identification cards and fingerprint scans. Finally, they entered a small office. Park Yuna pointed to a chair and Minho sat down. She placed a thick stack of papers in front of him. "These are non-disclosure agreements," she explained. "You'll need to sign each one. Everything you see, hear, or learn in this facility is classified at the highest level. You cannot discuss it with anyone outside these walls. Not your family, not your friends, not even other scientists who don't work here. Do you understand?" Minho nodded. He had expected this. "I understand." It took nearly an hour to sign all the documents. His hand was cramping by the time he finished the last page. Park Yuna collected the papers and filed them away in a safe. Then she smiled for the first time. "Now the real work begins," she said. "Let me show you around. They took an elevator down." Minho watched the numbers descend, B1, B2, B3, B4. The elevator kept going. B5, B6, B7. Finally, it stopped at B3. The doors opened to reveal a massive laboratory space. Scientists and technicians moved between workstations. Computer screens displayed data and images that Minho couldn't quite make out from a distance. In the center of the room, behind thick glass walls, he saw something that made his breath catch in his throat. It was a piece of machinery unlike anything he had ever seen. The metal was a strange silver color that seemed to shift in the light. The design was smooth and organic, with curves and angles that didn't follow any human engineering principles. It hummed with a low, barely audible frequency that Minho could feel in his chest. "That's a propulsion core from a crashed vessel we recovered in 1989, Park Yuna explained. "We've been studying it for decades, but we still don't fully understand how it works." Minho stared at the device. "It's real," he whispered. "It's all real." "Yes," Park Yuna said simply. "Everything you've heard rumors about, everything you've wondered about, it's all real. And now you're part of the team trying to figure it out." She led him through the laboratory, introducing him to various team members. There was Dr. Han Seojin, a senior xenobiologist who would be Minho's direct supervisor. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes who welcomed Minho warmly. There was Kim Doyen, the chief of security, a stern-looking man who barely nodded when they were introduced. There were engineers, physicists, linguists, and specialists from a dozen different fields, all working together to understand alien technology. They spent the next 2 hours touring the facility. Park Yuna showed him containment rooms where recovered artifacts were stored. She showed him analysis labs where samples were examined under powerful microscopes. She showed him the cafeteria, the dormitories for staff who lived on site, and the recreation areas. As they walked down a corridor on sub-level 5, Minho noticed an elevator at the far end. It was different from the others. The doors were thicker, made of some dark metal, and there was an additional security panel beside it. "What's down there?" Minho asked, pointing. Park Yuna's expression became serious. "Sub-level 6 and 7, those areas are restricted." "Restricted how?" "Sub-level 6 contains the most sensitive artifacts we've recovered. Access is limited to senior staff with special clearance." She paused, then added, "Sub-level 7 is different. That's where we keep the lounge." "The lounge?" Minho repeated. The name seemed oddly casual for a high-security area. Park Yuna stopped walking and turned to face him. "Listen carefully, Dr. Kang, this is important. The lounge on sub-level 7 is completely off-limits to human personnel. It is not built for human comfort or safety. If you ever find yourself near that area, Do not enter under any circumstances. Do you understand? Minho felt a chill run down his spine despite the warm air in the corridor. What's in there? That's classified above your current security level, Park Yuna replied. All you need to know is that it's dangerous for humans. Several people have been injured because they didn't follow this rule. One person nearly died. Her voice was firm and serious. Stay away from the lounge. They continued the tour, but Minho couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious lounge. What could be on sublevel 7 that was so dangerous? Why would they have a lounge in a secure research facility that humans couldn't use? Later that afternoon, Minho was setting up his workstation in the xenobiology lab. Dr. Han Seojin was showing him how to access the facility's database when two senior researchers walked past. Talking in low voices, Minho wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but he couldn't help overhearing. Did you hear about Lee Hyun? One of them said. No, what happened? He got too curious about the lounge last month. Tried to take a quick look inside. The atmospheric difference knocked him out in seconds. He was in medical for 3 days. Idiot. Everyone knows you don't go near that place. The new security protocols should prevent it from happening again. The researchers moved on, their voices fading. Minho looked at Dr. Han, who had clearly heard the conversation too. Don't even think about it, Dr. Han said quietly. Whatever you're imagining, whatever theories you're building in your head, let them go. The lounge is not worth your curiosity. But it was too late. Minho was already wondering, already questioning, already wanting to know what could possibly be in a lounge that was so dangerous to humans. He just nodded and returned to his work. But in the back of his mind, a single question kept repeating. What is the lounge really for? His first day at Area 51 had given him more questions than answers, and Kang Minho had a feeling that this was only the beginning. 3 days had passed since Minho started working at Area 51. He had settled into a routine of analyzing alien tissue samples and studying reports from previous research. The work was fascinating, but he couldn't stop thinking about the lounge on sublevel 7. On his 4th day, everything changed. Minho was in the laboratory, examining a strange crystalline structure under a microscope, when alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed in the hallways. His computer screen flashed with an emergency message. All personnel report to conference room A immediately. Dr. Han looked up from his workstation, his face pale. That's the emergency protocol. Something serious has happened. They hurried to the conference room along with dozens of other staff members. The room was packed with scientists, engineers, military personnel, and security officers. Everyone looked worried and confused. Kim Doyen, the security chief, stood at the front of the room with Park Yuna. Both of them looked grim. Park Yuna raised her hand for silence. The room quieted immediately. At 14:23 hours today, Junior Officer Lee Hyun entered sublevel 7 without authorization, she announced. Her voice was steady but angry. He opened the door to the lounge and stepped inside. He collapsed within 5 seconds. Medical teams are treating him now, but his condition is critical. The room erupted in whispers and shocked exclamations. Minho felt his stomach drop. This was the same Lee Hyun the researchers had mentioned on his first day. Why would he do that? Someone called out. That's under investigation, Kim Doyen replied sharply. But right now we have a bigger problem. When Officer Lee opened the lounge door, the atmospheric seal was broken. Several of our guests had to assist in the evacuation of Officer Lee, and they are extremely concerned about security protocols. Guests? Minho thought. What guests? Park Yuna took a deep breath. Because of this incident, we've been authorized to expand classified information access to all personnel currently in this room. What I'm about to tell you cannot leave this facility under any circumstances. She pressed a button on a remote control, and a large screen behind her lit up. It showed an image of Earth from space, but there were strange markers and symbols overlaid on the image. 5 years ago, Earth made official contact with an alliance of alien civilizations called the Galactic Cooperative, Park Yuna said. The room fell completely silent. This contact has been kept secret from the general public while we navigate the complexities of joining the galactic community. Minho's mind was racing. Official contact? The Galactic Cooperative? This was beyond anything he had imagined. Area 51 is not just a research facility, Park Yuna continued. It is Earth's primary diplomatic center for alien relations. We host ambassadors and representatives from 12 different alien species. They live and work here, helping us understand galactic technology and culture. The screen changed to show images of beings that were clearly not human. Some were tall and thin, others short and wide. Some had features that were almost familiar, while others were completely alien. Minho stared in awe and disbelief. The lounge on Sublevel 7 is a diplomatic space designed for these beings, Park Yuna explained. It has multiple atmospheric zones, adjustable gravity and environmental conditions that accommodate different alien biologies. However, these conditions are extremely dangerous for humans. The atmospheric mixture would be toxic to us. The gravity variations could cause serious injury. The temperature ranges would kill an unprotected human in minutes. Dr. Han leaned over and whispered to Minho, "I've known about this for 2 years. It never gets less strange." Suddenly, the door at the back of the conference room opened. Everyone turned to look. A being entered the room and Minho's breath caught in his throat. It was roughly human-sized but looked like it was made of living crystal. Light seemed to move through its body in patterns and waves. It had no face that Minho could recognize, but there was a small device attached to what might have been its chest. The device spoke with a calm, synthesized voice. "I am Vex, primary liaison between the Galactic Cooperative and humanity. I wish to address you all regarding today's incident." The room was so quiet Minho could hear his own heartbeat. "Officer Lee Hyun is receiving treatment from our medical specialists," Vex said. "He will survive, but he will need several days of recovery. The atmospheric exposure caused damage to his lungs and nervous system." Someone in the front row asked, "Why do you have specialists who can treat humans?" "Because this is not the first time a human has entered the lounge out of curiosity," Vex replied. "Your species is remarkably curious, often to the point of recklessness. This is a trait that many species in the Galactic Cooperative find both admirable and concerning." Park Yuna spoke up. "Vex, can you explain to our newer staff members why human curiosity concerns the Cooperative?" The crystalline being seemed to shimmer for a moment. Most intelligent species in the galaxy develop advanced technology slowly, carefully. They test thoroughly before implementation. They avoid unnecessary risks. Humans are different. You experiment boldly. You take risks that other species would consider insane. You explore dangerous territory simply because it exists. Vex paused, and the device on its chest made a sound that might have been the equivalent of a sigh. "When humanity first made contact with us, your leaders wanted to know everything immediately. They pushed for technology transfers that usually take decades to negotiate. They sent volunteers to test alien equipment without knowing if it was safe. 3 humans died in those early days because they were too curious, too eager to understand." The room was uncomfortable now. Minho felt a mix of pride and shame. Pride that humans were so bold, shame that people had died because of it. "But," Vex continued, "this same trait is why the Galactic Cooperative accepted humanity so quickly. Your curiosity drives innovation. Your willingness to take risks leads to breakthroughs. You solve problems in ways we never consider. You are useful allies even if you are sometimes difficult to protect from yourselves." A woman Minho didn't recognize stood up. She wore a white medical coat. "I'm Choi Nari, head of medical services." "Vex, what is Officer Lee's prognosis?" "He will make a full recovery," Vex assured her. "Our medical technology is quite advanced. However, he will need to remain under observation for at least 5 more days." Kim Doyen stepped forward. "All personnel are reminded that Sublevel 7 is strictly off-limits. New security measures will be implemented immediately. Anyone caught attempting to access the lounge without authorization will face immediate dismissal and possible criminal charges." Park Yuna dismissed the meeting, but she asked all new personnel to remain behind. Minho stayed in his seat along with about 20 other people who had started working at the facility in the past few months. Once the room had cleared, Park Yuna looked at them with a softer expression. "I know this is overwhelming," she said. "Finding out that aliens are real, that they're here, that we're part of a galactic civilization, it's a lot to process. Take tonight to think about it. Talk to your supervisors if you need to, but remember your NDAs. This information cannot leave this facility." As Minho walked back to his quarters that evening, his mind was spinning with everything he had learned. Aliens were real. They were here. They were working with humanity, and the mysterious lounge was their home away from home, a place designed for beings that were nothing like humans. He lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what tomorrow would bring. In just 4 days, his entire understanding of the universe had been shattered and rebuilt. And somehow, he knew this was still just the beginning. 2 weeks had passed since Minho learned the truth about Area 51. He had thrown himself into his work, studying the biology of different alien species from the reports and samples available to him. Every day brought new discoveries, new questions, and new wonders. He had even attended a few briefings where Vex explained aspects of galactic culture to the human staff. Life had settled into a new kind of normal, until the morning everything went wrong. Minho was eating breakfast in the cafeteria when the alarms went off again. This time the message on the screens was different. Medical emergency. All medical personnel to sublevel. 7. All other personnel stand by for instructions. Dr. Han was sitting across from Minho. They looked at each other with concern. Another accident? Minho asked. I don't think so, Dr. Han replied. Medical emergencies are different from security breaches. Something happened to one of the aliens. They waited tensely for over an hour. Finally, a message came through asking all senior scientists to report to Conference Room A. Dr. Han told Minho to come with him. The conference room was chaotic when they arrived. Park Yuna was arguing with Kim Doyen. Choi Nari, the medical chief, was talking rapidly on a phone. Several other department heads were having urgent conversations. Vex stood in the corner, its crystalline body flickering with lights and patterns Minho had learned meant distress. Park Yuna saw the mentor and called them over. Dr. Han, good. We need your expertise. She looked at Minho. You too, Dr. Kang. You've been studying the biological reports. What happened? Dr. Han asked. Ambassador Krill from the Kelther species has collapsed, Park Yuna explained quickly. According to Vex and the other alien representatives, he's suffering from a severe medical crisis. He needs immediate treatment, but there's a problem. Choi Nari joined them, looking frustrated and worried. The treatment equipment is in the lounge medical bay. It's specialized Kelther technology that can stabilize his condition, but the atmospheric conditions in the lounge make it impossible for my medical team to enter. Our standard hazmat suits aren't rated for those conditions. Can't the other aliens help him? Minho asked. Vex moved closer, its translation device speaking. The medical procedures require precise manipulation that most species cannot perform. The Kelther biology is very specific. I have contacted other Kelther vessels in this solar system, but the nearest one is 4 hours away. Ambassador Krill will not survive that long without treatment. How long does he have? Dr. Han asked quietly. Less than 2 hours, Vex replied. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. An alien ambassador was going to die in an Earth facility because humans couldn't enter the lounge safely. Minho's mind was racing. He thought about the atmospheric data he had been studying. He thought about the environmental suits he had seen in the equipment storage. He thought about the Kelther biology reports he had read just yesterday. What if we modified a suit? He said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. The standard hazmat suits aren't good enough, right? Minho continued, speaking faster as the idea formed. But what if we reinforced one? Added extra oxygen supply, better insulation, stronger seals. What if we used some of the alien materials we've been studying? Kim Doyen shook his head immediately. That's impossible. We don't have time to design and build a new suit, and we've never successfully integrated alien materials into our equipment before. We have engineer Oh Junho, Minho countered. I've seen his work. He understands alien technology better than anyone, and we don't need to build something perfect. We just need something that can survive in the lounge long enough to reach the medical bay and operate the equipment. Park Yuna looked at him with sharp, calculating eyes. How long would that take? If we work fast, maybe 90 minutes. That's cutting it very close, Choi Nari said. It's also our only option, Dr. Han pointed out. Unless someone has a better idea. No one spoke. Park Yuna made her decision quickly. Get Oh Junho up here immediately, Dr. Kang. You'll work with him on the suit modification. Dr. Han, pull up everything we have on Kelther biology and the medical equipment in the lounge. Dr. Choi, prepare for extreme atmospheric exposure treatment, just in case. Kim Doyen stepped forward. Deputy Director, I must object. Regulations clearly state that no human personnel should enter sublevel 7 under any circumstances. If Dr. Kang goes in there and dies, we'll have an international incident. If Ambassador Krill dies because we refuse to try to save him, we'll have a galactic incident. Park Yuna shot back. I'm authorizing this mission. Dr. Kang, are you volunteering for this? Minho's heart was pounding. He thought about Lee Hyun, who had nearly died from just a few seconds in the lounge. He thought about the toxic atmosphere, the dangerous gravity, the extreme conditions, but he also thought about Ambassador Krill dying because humans couldn't adapt quickly enough. Yes, he said firmly. I volunteer. Within minutes, Oh Junho arrived. He was a young man with messy hair and oil stains on his hands, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. When Park Yuna explained the situation, he didn't hesitate. I can do it, he said confidently. I've been working with the alien alloys for months. I know which materials can handle the lounge conditions. They rushed to the engineering workshop. Oh Junho pulled out a heavy-duty hazmat suit and started disassembling parts of it. Minho helped, following his instructions. They worked with desperate speed, reinforcing the suit's seals with alien polymer strips. They added extra oxygen tanks connected in series. They installed a cooling system using technology adapted from a recovered alien device. Dr. Han arrived with a data pad full of information. The medical device you need is called a neural stabilizer, he explained to Minho. It looks like a silver arch. You place it over the patient's head, and it activates automatically. Simple, but you need to reach it first. Where in the medical bay? Minho asked while Oh Junho welded a new seal on the suit's helmet. According to the schematics Vex provided, it's in a cabinet on the far wall. The cabinet is marked with Kelthur symbols, but Vex says it's the only silver cabinet in the room. Oh Junho finished the last modification and stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead. It's done. This suit should hold for about 20 minutes in lounge conditions. Maybe 30 if you're lucky. After that, the seals will start to fail. How long to get to the medical bay and back? Minho asked. According to Vex, about 12 minutes if you move quickly, Dr. Han said. That leaves you 8 to 18 minutes of safety margin. Park Yuna entered the workshop. Ambassador Krill has less than 40 minutes. Are you ready, Dr. Kang? Minho looked at the modified suit. It looked rough and improvised, like something from a science fiction movie. Alien materials were woven between human technology and patterns that probably broke a dozen engineering principles. But it was all they had. I'm ready, he said. They helped him into the suit. It was heavier than he expected. The helmet sealed with a hiss of pressure equalizing. Oh Junho checked all the connections one last time. Remember, Oh Junho said seriously, if any alarm goes off, you need to get out immediately. Don't be a hero, Minho nodded. Through the helmet, his voice sounded strange and distant to his own ears. I understand. They escorted him to the elevator to sub-level 7. Vex was waiting there, along with Park Yuna, Dr. Han, and Choi Nari. Kim Doyun stood to the side, looking unhappy but silent. The other ambassadors have been informed, Vex said. They will stay clear of the medical bay to give you space to work. The route is marked with lights that you will be able to see. Follow them. The elevator doors opened. Inside was a corridor that looked different from the rest of the facility. The walls were made of materials Minho didn't recognize, and the lighting came from sources he couldn't identify. Park Yuna placed a hand on his shoulder. Good luck, Dr. Kang. Bring our ambassador's friend back safely. Minho stepped into the elevator. The doors closed behind him and he began his descent into the lounge. The elevator descended deeper than Minho had ever gone before. His heart pounded in his chest as he watched the numbers. B6, B7. The elevator slowed and stopped. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the doors opened. The sight before him took his breath away. The lounge was enormous, much larger than any space Minho had seen in the facility. The ceiling stretched high above, maybe 30 meters up. But what made it truly alien was that it wasn't one single space. Instead, it was divided into different zones, each with its own environment visible through transparent barriers. In one zone, mist rolled across the floor like a living thing. In another, the air shimmered with heat waves. A third zone appeared to have water floating in bubbles throughout the space, defying gravity. Lights and colors Minho had never seen before illuminated each area. The whole place hummed with energy that he could feel through his suit. A path lit up on the floor in front of him, glowing with soft blue light. This was the route Vex had promised. Minho took his first step into the lounge. Immediately, his suit alarms began beeping. The atmospheric sensors showed readings that would be fatal to an unprotected human. The air outside contained gases that would burn his lungs. The temperature was fluctuating between extremes. The gravity felt slightly different, pulling at him in strange ways, but the suit held. Oh, Junho's modifications were working. Minho followed the glowing path. As he walked, he saw movement in the different zones. Beings were watching him. Through the transparent barriers, he could see aliens of different shapes and sizes. Some looked almost humanoid. Others were completely unlike anything from Earth. One being resembled a collection of floating spheres held together by bands of light. Another looked like a tall, thin shadow with too many limbs. A third appeared to be made of liquid metal that constantly shifted shape. They all watched him with what Minho assumed was curiosity or concern. The path led him through a doorway into a new section. Here the gravity changed noticeably. Minho felt heavier, like he was carrying extra weight. Each step took more effort. His suit groaned under the strain, but it continued to hold. More alarms started beeping. The temperature inside the suit was rising. The cooling system was working hard, but it was struggling. Sweat ran down Minho's face inside the helmet. He couldn't wipe it away. He kept walking, following the blue lights on the floor. They led him around a corner, through another doorway and into a corridor that curved upward at an impossible angle. Minho had to lean forward as he climbed, fighting against the altered gravity that tried to pull him backward. Through a window in the corridor, he saw what looked like a small garden. Plants grew there, but they moved on their own, reaching toward him as he passed. Their leaves were colors that shouldn't exist in nature. Some glowed softly. Others seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. A figure appeared in front of him. Minho stopped, his heart racing. It was an alien blocking his path. The being was tall and covered in what looked like fur or feathers, though they shimmered like metal. It had 4 arms and eyes that were too large for its head. The alien made sounds that Minho couldn't understand. It pointed at him, then pointed down another corridor. Was it trying to help? Or warning him away? Minho pointed at the glowing path on the floor, and then toward where it led. He hoped the gesture was universal enough. The alien seemed to understand. It nodded, or at least made a motion that seemed like agreement. Then it stepped aside, letting Minho pass. As Minho walked by, the alien reached out with one of its 4 arms and touched his suit gently. It made another sound, softer this time. Minho got the impression it was wishing him luck. The path led him through 2 more sections. In one, the air was so thick with particles that he could barely see 3 meters ahead. In another, the walls themselves seemed alive, pulsing with a rhythm like a heartbeat. His suit alarms were constant now, a chorus of warnings about oxygen levels, temperature, pressure, and structural integrity. He had been in the lounge for 8 minutes. The medical bay should be close now. Finally, he saw it. A door marked with alien symbols that somehow he knew meant medical. The door was different from the others, made of a white material that glowed faintly. As he approached, it slid open automatically. The medical bay was smaller than he expected, about the size of a regular hospital room. But the equipment inside was clearly alien. Strange devices lined the walls, their purposes unknown. Some displayed information in symbols Minho couldn't read. Others made sounds that were almost like music. In the center of the room, on a platform that appeared to be floating, lay Ambassador Krill. The Kelthir resembled a large insect, though that description didn't do it justice. Its body was segmented and covered in a shell that shimmered with purple and green colors. Multiple limbs hung limply at its sides. Its breathing was shallow and irregular. Another alien stood next to Krill, smaller than the ambassador. This one wore what might have been clothing or might have been part of its body. It looked at Minho and made urgent sounds while pointing at a cabinet on the far wall. The silver cabinet. Minho rushed toward it, his suit protesting with every step. New alarms were going off now. The suit's integrity was failing. He had maybe 5 minutes before it would break down completely. He opened the cabinet. Inside were several devices he didn't recognize. But there on the top shelf was the neural stabilizer. It looked exactly as Dr. Han had described, a silver arch about 30 centimeters long. Minho grabbed it carefully. It was surprisingly light. He carried it to the floating platform where Krill lay. The smaller alien gestured frantically, showing him where to place it. Minho positioned the neural stabilizer over Krill's head. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the device began to glow. Soft light spread from it, covering Krill's body in gentle waves. The ambassador's breathing steadied. The color of its shell began to brighten. The smaller alien made sounds that Minho somehow knew were expressions of relief and gratitude. It touched Minho's arm gently. the same gesture the alien in the corridor had made. But Minho's suit was failing rapidly now. Multiple systems were shutting down. The oxygen supply was reading critical. The cooling system had stopped working, and the temperature inside the suit was becoming unbearable. He had to get out now. He turned toward the door and started moving. Each step felt like running through mud. The gravity seemed to be pulling at him differently now, or maybe his suit was just too damaged to compensate properly. The smaller alien followed him to the door, still making sounds. Minho hoped they were words of thanks. He hoped he had done enough. He stumbled back through the corridor, following the blue lights that would lead him to the elevator. His vision was starting to blur from the heat. Sweat soaked his clothes under the suit. The helmet's display was showing red warnings across every system. Another alien appeared, different from the others. This one was small and moved on 6 legs. It positioned itself beside Minho and seemed to be guiding him, helping him stay on the path. When he stumbled, it made clicking sounds that might have been encouragement. They passed through the garden corridor, through the zones with different atmospheres, through the massive main chamber of the lounge. Aliens in each area watched him. Some made gestures that he thought might be signs of respect. Finally, he saw the elevator. 20 meters away, 15, 10. His suit's oxygen alarm went to a continuous tone. 5 meters. 3. He reached the elevator and hit the button. The doors opened immediately. He fell inside and the doors closed behind him. The elevator began to rise. Minho collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath inside his failing suit. The oxygen was almost gone. The temperature was still rising. But he was out of the lounge. He had done it. The elevator reached sublevel 6 and the doors opened. Medical teams were waiting. They rushed forward, helping him out of the suit. Someone placed an oxygen mask over his face. He breathed deeply, grateful for the cool, clean air. Park Yuna was there, her usually calm face showing relief. "Ambassador Krill?" she asked. "Stable," Minho managed to say. "The device is working." Through his blurred vision, he saw Vex approaching. The crystalline being's lights were pulsing in patterns he now recognized as gratitude. "You have done well, Dr. Kang Minho. The Galactic Cooperative will not forget this." Then everything went dark as Minho finally let unconsciousness take him.